Oops is a very accurate title for this episode because yikes! There's too much to go over and it all goes by so fast. Like, it feels like I'm sitting through the world's longest run-on sentence that ignores any tone shifts and just keeps going and going just to keep your attention. And it's been hours since anyone has taken a breath. So let's just comment that subscribe, like that share, and let's get in there! I'm almost for certain I might go on an off-script tangent, and I'll be sure to mark it appropriately in the description, just because I'm so passionate and so fed up at this point. I just need to see how it ends. It's the Steven Universe sunken fallacy. I've invested so much time and energy. I gotta see how this crazy ride ends. It might not be worth it in the end, but at least I could say, well, that happened. The episode starts at what appears to be Osmodeus' palace. Fizzaroli outlines Ozzy's schedule for the day, and they have a breakfast together. From the dialogue and the two's general behavior, it's implied that they've lived together for some time, because their banter would indicate that this is not their first morning together. Admittedly, they are cuter than I expected, Fizz stretching all over the place, while Ozzy plays off his clown behavior. It's honestly really cute, but I'm very curious how these two got together, how they met, and I get it, they're supposed to be like a parallel to Stolas and Blitz, but I'm almost for certain that these two didn't get together on the same basis as Blitz and Stolas' fetish foundation. Like, what is Ozzy like about Fizz? What is Fizz like about Ozzy, aside from his giant, gargantuan, kaiju-sized personality? Fizz has business to attend in the greed ring. Ozzy worries about him going alone because he's a celebrity under Mammon's brand. Ozzy being so concerned about Fizz's safety and being justifiably overprotective shows just how much he does love and care for Fizz. See, Helluva boss, you are capable of not always spelling out what characters' relationships are to each other. There you go, you're doing it. You're showing, you're not telling. Oh, how that goes down so fast. While they're canoodling in the kitchen, the pair are walked in on by one of Ozzy's succubi. And these two make a big deal about how, hey, the banging we're doing, it has nothing to do with love, because love is gross. Yuck. What has love got to do with it? Which, big hypocrisy from that night at Ozzy's where they were mocking Moxie for loving his wife aside. Since Fizz saw in the paper that the relationship is known and it's later said to be the worst kept secret in all of hell, then why make a big deal about Blitz and Stolas being together, aside from the cheating anyway? Does class matter or not? Because as a Sin in love with an imp, he has no room to judge a Goetia dating an imp. It'd be better if all of hell didn't treat their relationship like a well-known fact, because again, it brings into question what the Sins can keep public and if there's serious consequences to it or not. This is the second time in this series that a Sin dating a lower-class peasant is treated like it's nothing! Oh sure, there's gossip, but there's no real punishment for something treated as such a taboo. So either make it a big deal or don't. Fudge. Fizz arrives in Greed in the most inconspicuous way possible, and he runs into, oh my gosh, you wouldn't guess. Oh my gosh, it's Blitz getting kicked out of a coffee shop in Greed. He's here so the plot can happen. I can hear you all type. But why in the Seven Rings is he in greedable places now? Especially after what happened in X's and O's. If he needs coffee so freaking bad, then why not go to Sloth? Or even better yet, Gluttony. But whatever, it's not like we've seen the same rings at least twice now, and have so much more left to uncover. Oh wait! They have some terrible back and forth dialogue. Apparently it's been 15 years since the incident in their falling out. Blitz calls Fizz spoiled, and Fizz makes a comment about how his horns were always bigger than Blitz's, which I'm not sure if that has to do with another dick joke or whatever, or is there something significant about imps with bigger horns? But whatever the case may be, it causes Blitz to rush him and they start fighting in the street. I was a little taken aback at this at first because Blitz has only ever gotten into a physical confrontation, but I guess you push him hard enough, he'll completely forget that he has weapons on him and just throw hands. Meanwhile, we hear Crimson talking with Striker? Boy, your ass is broke. You can't afford this guy and want to be cowboy. You sure you're the best assassin out there? Because for someone who has a body count in the hundreds, you keep losing to a bunch of amateurs in your own line of work. Oh, but again, how convenient was it that Fizz and Blitz's fight was right outside the building where their meeting was taking place. Striker literally yanks the two of them out of the street and into the building, and Crimson uses Fizz as leverage against Aussies to meet his demands, telling him to be a good bitch boy and do the thing. That just sounds like such filler dialogue. Because let me tell you a little writer's secret. In first drafts, it's not always gonna be perfect. You're gonna have little filler things here and there until you can come back and rewrite it over. This feels like first draft dialogue. You went with the first draft. And even if you didn't, you probably thought that, oh, this is funny, I'm gonna keep it in. When it's supposed to be an intimidating scene, a serious scene. This shit is not meant to be funny right now. If I'm meant to be taking it as serious as the narrative wants me to, and completely takes me out of it. Also, might I mention, we're about 6 to 7 minutes into the episode by now, and so much has already happened, and so much to get through in one episode, and it's just barely started. The pacing is horrendous! This is the worst paced episode in Helluva Boss. Like, the pacing has always been, like, bad or just needed a tweak here and there, but how is it we went from X's and O's being the best paced episode to 3 episodes down? This is the worst. And not to mention the fucking awful song, but I'll get to there. So they're doing a hostage situation, and I'm over here asking, why doesn't Ozzy just burst in there and kill all those jokers? Because as a sin, he can probably do that. But as Crimson says, out of all the sins, he's the biggest pushover and the weakest. What? You telling me the party animal fox is stronger than the rooster, who can emit fire from his own being? I don't believe that at all. I really don't. The power scaling in this show is bullshit. And there's that telling and not showing again, because how is this guy a pushover in any means that's not intimate? If anything, it gives big power bottom energy. And if him being the weakest is such common knowledge, then why haven't overlords tried usurping Ozzy? Because we don't know the full extent of his own power, who's to say someone as loathy as, like, Alistair couldn't just defeat him or dethrone him? And why does Crimson have a lawyer to settle a contract for this deal that even someone as powerful as a Sin has to follow? So not only is there a jail in hell, but there's lawyers, which means there's a greater justice system in place. Guys, this is not hell. This is just our world painted red. Whatever, I'm getting way too ahead of myself. Stolas is there to conduct a deal for one of Ozzy's crystals, since he realizes that his feelings for Blitz may not be mutual and wish to break the original arrangement that you have made. Refer to my Stolas video as to why I think he's a POS and why his relationship with Blitz is built on a faulty foundation of fetishes, and he's just terrible. And this episode does not prove me wrong, in my opinion. But Ozzy won't agree to this because Fizz hates Blitz. So no privileges for the man his mans hate. They get a video from Crimson that was as threatening as it was comical. Seriously, the tonal whiplash is getting worse every episode. Blitz and Fizz are tied up together and they start talking about their differences in partners. While Fizz is happy with Ozzy, Blitz doesn't understand why Stolas tries so hard to care about him outside of the bedroom. As far as he knows, Stolas gets his kicks out of doing it with peasants, and at this point in the show, Blitz isn't wrong, even though he says Stolas comments on his pictures, asks how his day is, and all other domestic shit. We don't see that. We know as the audience that Stolas wants more from their arrangement other than intimacy, but from Blitz's POV, most of his actions contradict it because he's been nothing but flirtatious. The only time he wasn't was that night at Ozzy's, and even then he was a nervous wreck about it. So excuse me if I don't believe Stolas doing all the things Blitz says he does. Stop telling me and just fucking show it! Oh wait, they did show it, with a very brief blink and you'll miss it list of text messages. Unbelievable. Stryker cuts them off, calling them both embarrassments of their kind for their relationships with Blue Bloods, but Fizz is worse for being Ozzy's personal lapdog. Oh, that's rich coming from someone that accepted Blue Blood money for a hit on another Blue Blood. But what's the point in even acknowledging Stryker's hypocrisy if it's not gonna be explored, huh? Also calling him a supremacist? I don't think you guys are using that word right, because I don't want to villainize Stryker just because he hates rich people. That doesn't sound right. He's not a supremacist. If anything, he's more like an equalist, where he just wants a better life than the Blue Bloods won't allow. Blitz manages their escape through a MacGyver series of rigs, and honestly, that looks really cool. I thought it was really impressive. They have to fight their way through Crimson's goons, and the story decides now's the time to give us that emotional backstory of their falling out. Not in the cage when they didn't have to worry about dodging bullets, and they were talking anyway. No. Now's the perfect time. Fizz blames Blitz for the fire because he was jealous and thought he left him for dead. Like, it was an accident, and Blitz fully accepts that fault. And he also lost his mother in that fire. Not to compare who had it worse, but you can see Fizz trying to reach out to Blitz for help and he just left him. You know, in the brief moment where you can't see it, it goes by so fucking fast. Either Fizz survived the fire himself or someone else pulled him out of the fire. Either way, he has a good reason to be pissed with Blitz. Because of him, he lost his autonomy. Even though his life right now is pretty great, I find it hard to believe Fizz would forgive Blitz right away just because he lost his mother. Which, don't get me wrong, that is also a big deal, but that's something you can work through in therapy and grief. But imagine all the physical and mental therapy Fizz had to go through to get to where he is now. Also, isn't Blitz in therapy? So come on, man, work through your problems. Due to miscommunication on both parties, Blitz tried to see Fizz but was told he didn't want to be seen by him, but Fizz never said that. So who exactly was keeping these two apart? Was it Barbie so she can keep Blitz far away from the circus? Was it his dad, Cash Buxo, for what happened to his wife? This just raises more questions than I hoped for the answers we were gonna get this episode. And wow, I can't believe their falling out could have been so easily resolved if Blitz had just visited at least once. That's so fucking lame, so anticlimactic in the cheapest way possible, using the worst trope known to writers. Their 15-year long separation was due to either someone keeping them apart and or a matter of miscommunication? So aside from Blitz blowing up Fizz, their hatred for each other was really neither of their faults, huh? Why can't this show just let characters be at fault for something? Anything! Also, Blitz goes the extra mile to track down his own sister, who possibly went to rehab after ODing because she couldn't cope with the loss of her mother. Sad, right? Then why not for Fizz? I guess since there's more security around him these days, but no, that doesn't track either because Blitz was able to sneak into a Goetia party 25 years ago, nearly almost undetected. This can at least seem to be a good start down the road of recovery for the both of them in their friendship. You know, as soon as they can escape. I do not believe Fizz is right off the bat, oh, I forgive you, Blitz, we're friends again. No. And it shouldn't go down that way. It's been 15 years, he blew you up, you gotta work through it, you're not friends now. You need to settle a foundation first. I'm just gonna rip the band-aid off. The song in this episode was literally a distraction song so Blitz could rig a way for their escape. It's painfully long and unfunny. The only saving grace was the animation. Absolutely the worst song, lyrically, so far. I'm so disappointed because Fizz went from performing one of my favorite songs in the series to a complete skippable mess. They managed to escape, but Stryker captures Fizz in one last attempt to be menacing. Blitz blows up a gas tank to separate them, catching Stryker on fire, and he scurries away like a rat. You know, I never would have pegged Stryker, out of all of Helluva Boss's rogue gallery, to be the "I'll get you next time" type of villain. Such wasted potential. Fizz gets caught in the fire and tries to stretch his way out, but so his limbs do have a limit, or he's just too baked up to use them fully. But what about his legs? He can stretch his legs out, can he? No? Okay, fine. Moving on. After some incredible feats of acrobatics, Blitz was able to save Fizz and ruin another emotional moment with his horniness. God, just let a moment sit. This whole episode never just lets a moment sit. Let it breathe. Take a breath. I want to take in the environment. I want to be immersed, but you keep going to the next thing. Interesting to see Blitz still got that clown in him, though. I'm surprised he never uses it while on Earth during his, job, but whatever. He's trying to leave that part of his life behind. Fizz returns to Ozzy and they kill Crimson's lawyer. I guess a brush with death helped Fizz get over his fear of blood, huh? Ozzy doesn't care that he's being sweet with Fizz in front of his succubi and threatens to crush them if they dare spread any rumors, which, you could have done that sooner to avoid this whole thing, but whatever. While Asmodeus replaces Fizz's busted arm, he convinces his partner to let Stolas have a crystal for Blitz, since he feels that he's earned it. If this means that Fizz fully accepts Blitz back in his life, it happened way too soon, way too fast. They just got somewhat on good footing again, and now Fizz is okay with this? Whatever. It ends with those two more canoodling, cutesy talk, blah blah blah. Okay. That was a lot. A lot. There's just too much going on for just one episode. For a mid-season episode, I would not have hated if this was a two-parter, honestly. It really should have been. It really needed to be. Otherwise, the pacing wouldn't have suffered as much. This episode would have been just fine with Fizz, Ozzy, Blitz, and Stolas if they wanted to keep their parallels, which seems to work on the surface, but because of the foundation of Blitz and Stolas' relationship, it's not there. They haven't earned it. At least not yet. I get what the story wants to do with Fizz and Ozzy, having the ideal couple of royalty and imp that Blitz and Stolas can't have, but even then, those two have their own issues, like the press calling Ozzy a hypocrite. And even if he doesn't care anymore, wouldn't it still affect his position as the sin of lust to be in love with an imp of all things? Ha! Of course not, because if Beelzebub can date a hellhound, the equivalent to pets and slaves in hell, and no one bats an eye about it, then consequences be damned! We didn't need to have Crimson and Stryker to further complicate this episode and muddy their status as threats. This is what people mean when they say Helluva Boss has a villain problem, especially when treating villains that used to be more serious and actually menacing as goofs. So the eventual next time we see them, because I have a feeling we are, they're just gonna be a joke, or treated as a joke. It's starting to feel like there's no real stakes at hand despite all the setup. It's all edging and no satisfying climax. What am I, a woman in the 1920s who's not allowed to get her rocks off? See, you can do V jokes. V jokes are possible. I'm just sick and tired of all the D jokes. It's like all they care about is male anatomy down there. For instance, I like wearing deep V tops to match my deep V bottom. It's not hard, it's fun. Be creative. You can be creative. More time should have been focused on Fizz and Blitz. That's an easy fix for this episode. Instead of setting up a mystery person keeping these two apart, Fizz thinking it was on purpose and Blitz just left him for dead would have been so much more impactful for the reveal. The meeting between Ozzy and Stolas would have been enough for a B-plot and helped flesh out how Blitz and Stolas feel about each other when contrasted against Fizz and Ozzy. Crimson and Stryker team up at this point feels random and just fan service, I'm sorry. Because last time we checked, Crimson's family is broke, so how could he even afford a high-end assassin like Stryker? And Stryker, Hanny, what the fuck are you doing here? Out of all the assassins in hell Crimson could have hired, it had to be you because plot, okay? That's the only reason why you're here. Plot. Now, I sorta like the idea on paper, but in action it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, which we could say a lot about this season of Helluva Boss so far. Alright, big tangent time, because I'm sick and tired of the miscommunication. It's all terrible. My first initial watching of this episode, and you ask me, so what'd you think? I would just look you dead in the eye and tell you, this is the worst paced episode I've ever seen of Helluva Boss. Like, seriously, it is phenomenally, incredibly, fascinatingly bad how this pacing is awful. The Fizz and Ozzy setup in the first, 2 minutes, and we don't know why they like each other so much. And of course, when it comes to Helluva Boss and romance, it's always, if it's not Moxie and Millie, it's always something about lust or sex and dick joke. And I am sick and tired of seeing Medrano cry, literally crying online about how no one likes my show, everyone's homophobic, even the queers are homophobic, and not realizing and separating the valid criticism from the haters. Because I agree, there are haters who are just hating for hating's sake, and that's not cool. People work hard on this show, and I get it. But here's another thing. You are not indicative. You are not avoidant of criticism of this show, because there's a lot of valid criticism that goes into the show. Not just me. Other people who have criticized it have so much to say about it, and yet they still like it. I, for some reason, still enjoy watching it, just because at this point, I want to see how the story ends. I'm invested. I want to be more invested in these characters. You have such a great setup. You have a great idea. Medrano has such good ideas, but the problem is in her fucking execution. She doesn't know how to pace stuff out, and it's kind of showing in her writing. And I want to believe that there's people on her team who either are trying to steer her in a better direction or even give her own feedback. But you know what? I'd be okay with all of it. All of it. If she just stopped going on her different social medias. You're going on Blue Sky. You're going on Twitter. You're going on Instagram probably. Just crying about how everyone is mean. No one likes it. And how you're acting like such a bigwig and how it doesn't faze you. I thought you said that criticism was okay for your show, huh? I thought you said you weren't above it. You want to be so unprofessional and act like a crybaby over it. And you know what? At this point, I wanted to make a much more structured and well-approached video about how we need to talk about her behavior and how I don't think it's really good and it's hurting her own brand and her show. But you know what? If she wants to go unprofessional, I'm going unprofessional. Fuck this noise. I'm being unprofessional about this because why not? Don't sit there and say that you can take criticism and in the same breath in a different site. You're crying about criticism, okay? You cannot be this oblivious. You really cannot be this absent-minded of your fans. There are some good eggs in the Helluva Boss fandom. I know. But unfortunately, it's that loud minority of those who are literally sending death threats to people who have the minorest nitpick about the show. Even for fun. For goodness sake, how can you coddle these people? Because they coddle you right back. And it's honestly insulting how they even coddle Medrano and her team. It's like, oh, this is an indie thing, and they're trying their best. They don't know what they're doing. Bullspit. Look at what they're producing. Look at their merchandise. They know what they're doing. In some cases, they're just not doing it well. And in that, I mean the writing. I have no gripes against the animation. I applaud each and every one of those animators, the VFX artists, everyone working their literal asses off, especially now during the Writers' Strike Guild, which I stand for. I don't care if the writing is good or bad. People should get paid for their work. Suck on that. But for goodness creeper jeeper sake, my only gripe is the writing. Because guess what? This is not the first time a show has had great visuals, but the writing was lacking. In this case scenario, it's lacking the writing, animation, awesome. No notes for the animators. Keep doing your thing, boos. You are amazing. You're nailing it. Background artists, that's why you're so beautiful. That's why I'm so frustrated about this episode. It goes by so fucking fast that I can't really get immersed. I'm seeing all this stuff. It's like candy. It's like eye candy to me right now. And I can't get fully invested because the story, the writing, it goes by so fast. I'm trying to be invested. I want to be immersed into this world that they're building, but I can't if the writing is literally pulling me all the way to the finish line. Let's be honest, let's be real. Because 90% of the criticism that wavers at Helluva Boss, yes, it can be hate, but other 10% of it, valid, and just wants to see this show grow and be the best it can be, especially for an indie show. It's not the second coming. I wish people stopped treating it like it's the damn second coming. Because here's the thing. Helluva Boss has a lot of great ideas, has a lot of great input coming into it, and if you're really that bothered by the criticism, either ignore the critics, ignore the haters. There's algorithms that come up because you keep liking them, or the size of your fucking accounts are huge, and you're going after literally nobodies. People with less than double-digit following, and you're acting like such a smartass. This is kindergarten behavior. This ain't even high school teenage behavior. This is kindergarten shit. It's so out wildly childish, and you give them the time of day, and it just makes it looks worse on you and reflects on your show and your team, and I don't think that's very fair to your team. Personally, I don't think that's really cool. But if you really can't help yourself, get a PR team. For effing sake, get a freaking PR team. Spend some time offline if it's really this toxic for you, please. Please, because you have plenty of people on your team who are online and can do all the promos and talk about all the great storyboards or what they did or what they contributed to this episode or any episodes of Helluva Boss in moving forward. It's not that hard. If you really can't take it, then don't fucking dish it. Personally, from experience, you can't take it, don't dish it. Here's the thing though, Helluva Boss has so many great ideas, and I know it has such great potential, but it's all being so force-fed. I feel like my mouth is stuck to a tube and just being fed. Okay, tangent part over. My biggest frustration from Helluva Boss Season 2, it's that it's poorly written. It's that the stories are overly ambitious. If anything, it's just, there's too many major characters coming back, and the pacing and tone suffers for it. Even though this season was actually planned, it still feels cluttered and bogged down by way too many reoccurring characters that get way too much focus. It's aimlessly focusing on anything and everything. At this point, the writing feels like I'm at a buffet being force-fed all the food at once instead of being able to take my time and enjoy it at a reasonable pace. I don't get to taste the food. I'm just eating. I'm just consuming, and it's making me constipated. And you know what? I don't hate the show. I just have a lot of passion. I'm trapped in another Steven Universe sunken fallacy situation where I've been invested for so long, and I just need to know how this wild ride ends, for better or for worse. Unfortunately, there are people who have dropped the show because of its consistently poor writing choices or the creator's online behavior towards critics, shuffling in the bad eggs with those with good intent. Now that we are officially halfway through this season, I'm sad to say it does not feel like it's getting any better. Each passing episode, it has great ideas. Don't get me wrong, there's so much great ideas and potentials there, but was overly ambitious that the writing suffers for it. The only positive I can spin on this is that the animation, backgrounds, and the VFX, it keeps getting better. So yeah, artists of Helluva Boss, you're doing a great job. Keep it up. As for the writers of Helluva Boss, don't always take your first drafts to heart. There's a reason why writing is just rewriting. Comment, your subscribe, like that, share. Thank you everyone. I need to get out of here.